I don't want to be here.
It's this or the pit. There comes a time when one is forced to accept that they're not the only Doctor Who fan in the world. And sometimes they may even be forced to accept the fact that they're not the only ones with insane amounts of talent.
Having zero talent is indeed an insane amount.
So to celebrate that talent, myself and my one joke are going to be reviewing some fan-penned stories. We're going to do a few of these over the rest of this month, and I'm mainly going to be judging you guys on how much you managed to piss off Parody Ben. If you've made him angry, you're probably doing your job right.
I survived 5 years of the Count of Monte Chibnall. I can handle anything you throw at me.
The first one is from the Star Doctor.
Oh, the Lord is testing me.
Life Goes On has a pretty straightforward plot. There's an alien bounty hunter who's after runaway alien royalty who's hidden on Earth. Our princess recognized that the institution that raised her was morally repugnant, and so she abdicated. Europa then pulled Lestat and joined a band with 2 sea devils and 2 humans.
Why is the sea devil on the front hot? I've been having some very confusing dreams lately.
What really makes it for me is the humanity of this one. It's quite a personal story about lost, cold, lonely people who have been through so much and they're cut off from the lives that they had before. But they also don't want to go back. This is the life they choose, and while it's not perfect, and while what they've been through will always stay with them, things are better. It deals with some very heavy subject matter, and I was a bit nervous going into this one. But what I think really makes it for me is that this story doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Now, that could sound like a bit of a backhanded compliment, but I actually really respect it when Doctor Who accepts its limitations. The plot in this one is less about the Doctor saving these people from their lives, about changing their lives forever, but more about just preserving what they have, making sure they continue to lead the lives they have in peace. That said, there's a beat earlier on which I do wonder what the writer was kind of going for. The princess hits one of the other characters, and it does jar in the way that feels intentional, and in fact one character does say families don't hit families, but I never felt there was maybe closure on that particular beat. Something else I could praise about this is definitely how it manages to be about music. There's one scene in particular where a character says what one song means to her, but other than that, it's manages to communicate what it's trying to say about music, about how it brings people together, without really many monologues. I felt that this was a theme recurring in every single conversation that was being had, and I can't really point to what specifically the writer did to communicate this so well, but they did it. And the jokes were pretty good. Not everyone landed, but there were some really, really good ones in here. I really liked the anyone who plays a musical instrument will always tell a musician what they play. Or Jim the fish, the sea devil, constantly telling people that he can't swim just for a laugh. Maybe we could have tied the villain more into what the story was exploring. There's a bit earlier on where they talk about divine right and how technology on this one planet is used to enforce it through the throne having basically a booby-trapped DNA test. So that was really interesting, and I do think that point was worth maybe expanding on. The cast across the board are all good.
Jack Alexander is a disastrous miscast. 1 star.
And the sound mixing was pretty decent as well. There were a couple of quiet moments where I did have to switch on subtitles, but overall it was really good, especially considering the amount of music playing. I never felt the music was drowning anyone out. Overall, this one kind of has the feel of one of the comics, only with a lot more swearing. And I am really looking forward to seeing more like it, both from this writer and from this YouTuber. So the next story is a 2-parter, penned by a very good friend of mine, but allow me to reassure you, the vacuum of comments shall retain whatever integrity it had. So the Angels of Kyr is the first part, and it sees the Doctor and his companion land on a planet that the Doctor believes shouldn't exist. He's got no record of it. The locals worship this god called Kyr, and they're very mistrustful of outsiders as a result of his teachings, and anyone who hasn't even heard of him, that's grounds for being locked up. And it turns out when people are near death on this planet, they go to the chambers of Kyr and are never seen again. The bodies just vanish. This one's hard to talk about in isolation, and it's even harder to talk about without spoilers. So all I'll say for this one is it sets up the mysteries pretty well, and it's a really good, seamless recreation, in fact, of classic Who pacing and exploration. So let's talk about that twist. It turns out that Kyr is actually cyber. You can see why the Cybermen would want to do this. It allows them to recruit people to be converted much more easily. They don't have to force anyone into it. They don't have to mind control anyone. It's like if I somehow managed to find a way to convince pizza to make itself and then just walk into my mouth. So this is a really good pairing of subject matter and monster. It's the kind of thing I really want to see more, and it does go back to the Cybermen's original roots somewhat. Part of the thing with the original Cybermen is that they've gone on this sort of dark journey of enlightenment, almost.
The Cybermen can't even say Merry Christmas anymore. Aw, come on, let me have a slice.
What Joshua really nails is the cruelty that comes with this concept. The cold open of Angels of Kyr. It's a cyber conversion as you'd expect, and I should be desensitized to it after all these years, but the religious aspect really does put a whole new spin on it. It makes it even crueler. This guy's worshipped Kyr all his life, and this is his reward. And that gets doubled down on in part 2, Rapture of the Cybermen. The best moment in either of these stories is when this guy makes his way back to his sister and he's just asking, what did I do wrong? Lexa, his sister, who has kind of been berating the Doctor for shining a light on what's really going on here, for kind of ruining it, for taking away God. She lies to him and she says, no, you're going to be in peace. Praise Kyr, to bring him comfort. She says to the Doctor, I had no choice. And Miles' best line delivery of, you did, you can't really tell whether he's judging or approving at that moment. And I really liked all of that. I think for something like this, you've really got to put away your fanboy brain and try to not judge the story by how you would do it. I think the fanboy part of my brain would be bitching that the Cybermen don't also buy into this religion. Are the Cybermen lying when they claim to be the divine? They did, after all, create this whole civilization and this planet, or Dyson sphere. Maybe, from their interpretation, they are God, or his angels. Here we're dealing with the Earthshock Cybermen, which is pretty much the closest Cybermen come to cackling evil villains, but I don't hate it. Sci-fi stories that criticize religion, they can often become condescending. So I generally think I prefer it when stories just tackle the organized side of religion. This story just seems to be criticizing the ways in which religion can be exploited by an outside influence. Like fandom, it can get hijacked by someone with ulterior motives. From what I understood of the story, the Cybermen didn't teach humans to treat each other badly if they're heretics, or not give this girl time to grieve for her brother, or be mistrustful of outsiders. So the ending when the Doctor talks about all the good it can do, and there's a difference between Kyr and Cyber, I'm not sure the rest of the story quite backs that up. So Joshua, does this adventure make it into my superstar tag team of only good Cybermen stories? Well, the Wheel in Space is in there, so I guess I gotta let you in. I would really like to see more stories from you kind of exploring maybe similar ground, with or without the Cybermen. I think that's going to be the only advice I could offer to any of these fan stories. Is you guys are already on the right track, and you're only going to get better as you go on, so just keep at it. Miles and his team have been at this for a while, so this is a really solid production. The sound design was all clear. The cast, for the most part, was all really good. The characters used the word Kyr a lot. I get why it would come up as much as it does, but maybe there could have been other names in this religion. Although a character does lampshade it, which was appreciated. So I had a really good time with both of these stories. Really well done, you guys. You've accomplished way more than I've done, so really you deserve this pizza. But oh well. I wonder which one we're going to listen to next.
Maybe we should take a look at that 9/11 fan film.
Fuck off.